Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about not only Mario's 40th anniversary, and not only Zelda's 40th anniversary. We've talked about both before. What we're talking about today is both, back to back, combined even, overlapping. It looks like this is what is happening. Nintendo using both anniversaries to really push the beginning of Nintendo Switch 2 and to ensure success in a time where things are certainly turbulent, where they might not even be in the best position had they not come up with what might be a totally genius, masterful plan here that I do think, and I'm sure many agree, is going to involve two classic masterpiece revivals. And so that's what we're diving a bit more into today. Let me tell you about this game, Hero Wars, the sponsor for today's video. Hero Wars is a free-to-play fantasy MMORPG. You gather different heroes into a squad and set out on an epic adventure fighting different hordes of enemies. You collect equipment and rewards as you progress, so you can continually improve the abilities of your heroes while also seeking out others to expand on your roster and options. I got a kick out of continually leveling up my special attacks and noting the growing effectiveness. During the main campaign, you have control over when to activate the special moves for your different heroes, but I also enjoyed setting up my team as best as I can and sending them out to the arena and just sitting back and watching how they might perform. And there's actually a player versus player element to this. You are competing against others, so you want to further build up your team. You have more of a drive to go throughout the campaign, leveling up your characters, their abilities, and finding other heroes to really fill out the overall roster. And so you're probably going to want to click the link in the description below through your desktop with my code RESTARTHERO25 to obtain an additional 200 energy, 150,000 gold, 400 emeralds, and 25 Ginger Soul Stones, so you can really hit the ground running here and have a great advantage in building the ultimate band of heroes so you can compete and win in Hero Wars, all by clicking the link in the description below on PC. So if you've been following me for a while, you've likely have already heard me talk about Mario's 40th anniversary plans. You've likely also already heard me talk about Zelda's 40th anniversary plans. I've made so many videos on the different subjects, and there's a lot of evidence to support both theories. So I don't want to linger too much there, but let me just quickly summarize for those who have missed it. Consistently for Mario, every 5 years Nintendo celebrates the anniversary, and there has been big anniversary games for these anniversary celebrations. It's not just things outside of that like merchandising and different events and interviews and all sorts of stuff like that, but also a game. The 25th anniversary, there was a Mario All-Stars collection. The 30th anniversary, Mario Maker came out. The 35th anniversary, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. And now for the 40th anniversary, we are expecting something else. The month of September is totally vacant. You look at the last 8 years on Nintendo Switch, there was always some type of Nintendo published title, yet here, in the launch year of Switch 2, probably one of the most important years in a very long time, they don't have something announced for September, and we're also following up August, a very weak month in comparison to June and July, the beginning of Switch 2. You would think they would want to follow a weak month with a strong month. And so the absence of an announced title I actually think strengthens the argument that something is about to be announced. And we have seen, similar to 2020, where there was a lot of things happening throughout the year hinting at a Mario anniversary celebration, similar things have occurred. We have the My Mario line that was announced from Nintendo. It just happened, came out this past week. We have clothing lines that have been confirmed, similar to 2020. And recently, Charles Martinet has announced that he'll be taking part in Nintendo Live to start October, the original voice of Mario, right after September, the anniversary for month of Mario. It's all very curious and well-timed, and yes, of course, there are rumors, but we don't even need rumors to think that this makes a lot of sense. We have the history, we have things that are circumstantial surrounding the event, and there's a very interesting absence. It makes the most sense to think that something's happening in the month of September for Mario's 40th anniversary. But then the case for The Legend of Zelda, it's a little bit different. For Zelda, Zelda's 40th anniversary would be next year. There isn't always a big anniversary game. There have been anniversary games. For the 25th anniversary, they literally had it paired with Skyward Sword, a brand new mainline Zelda game. But for the 30th anniversary, it was just a whole bunch of different art books, collections, concerts, things like that. It was nice stuff, but it wasn't the year where we saw a big brand new mainline release. Now, I guess you could argue that technically Twilight Princess HD released in 2016 at the beginning of the year, but it wasn't really advertised as part of any sort of anniversary plan. But for the 35th anniversary, they did put out a Game & Watch, so that's something, right? So Zelda in the past hasn't been pushed as much as Mario, but they still always make sure to have something for Zelda for the anniversary. There's never nothing. It's far more than just a social media post like Nintendo does for most of their other franchises like Fire Emblem and Metroid. But this time, for Zelda's 40th anniversary, it does feel like the stars are aligning here, and there is going to be a substantial release. Perhaps this substantial release may take a little bit longer, which is why I thrown out the idea that perhaps it happens in the year of 2027, but recently we've gotten a rumor that's given me some more hope that's going to make it out for 2026. Recently we heard from Nashweedle, one of our favorite leakers we like to talk about here on this channel because it continues to get things right about Switch 2 and has been getting things right all throughout the year. Most recently, Indiana Jones was confirmed for Switch 2. He told us they would be getting announced for the console this year before anyone else months ago, before the console had even launched. And so that's just one of many examples, but basically what Nashweedle has heard, as he talked about in Attack the Backlogs channel, which his podcast will be linked in the description below, but he said he had heard that there will be multiple key dates throughout the year of 2026 for The Legend of Zelda. And what's funny about this, at the time of the discussion, they did not realize that it was Zelda's 40th anniversary in 2026. They just thought it was very curious that there would be a number of key release dates for Zelda throughout the year. And I actually talked to Attack the Backlog on my own podcast a few days ago, and actually confirmed with Nashweedle later. It's like, hey, I actually was told that it's gonna be the 40th anniversary, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, actually that makes a lot of sense. So they realized after the fact. Point is, it was heard that there would be multiple dates here. And multiple dates leads me to think that there's going to be something more substantial for Zelda's 40th anniversary. But when talking about this rumor, a lot of people have said, well, Mario's 40th anniversary is about to happen. Why would Nintendo start Zelda's at the beginning of next year so quickly? Well, why can't they overlap? Or why can't one finish and then they move on to the next? I think that's maybe the big idea here. Nintendo is in a position right now where they may not have a big mainline Mario or a big mainline Zelda to open up their generation, which is a position they haven't been in a very long time. You see, it's either been a mainline Mario game or a mainline Zelda that is the launch title for most of Nintendo's console generations. When they haven't had a mainline Mario or a mainline Zelda, it's been a disastrous start. Look at the Nintendo 3DS, for example, or the Wii U. Although technically they had Mario Bros. U Deluxe, but that was lackluster compared to other mainline Mario offerings, and both console launches were disastrous. Main point here, having a main Mario or Zelda early on makes sense, but we didn't get that. Instead, we got Mario Kart World, which is still substantial, don't get me wrong, but still, historically speaking, Nintendo makes sure to have a mainline Mario or mainline Zelda available early on for these consoles to bring in these core fan bases. Except the issue here is that things are looking like we may be a ways off for both a brand new mainline Mario and a brand new mainline Zelda. So, in the case of Zelda, it's pretty easy to understand this. Tears of the Kingdom, the last totally new 3D mainline Zelda, which took many years to make, the entire Switch era basically, came out in 2023. So with development cycles trending to be longer, not shorter, especially for Zelda, there's little reason for us to think that there's going to be another mainline 3D Zelda totally new ready anytime soon. Which puts Nintendo in a little bit of a bind. They need to think of a way to bring in that core Zelda fanbase early on without a brand new mainline Zelda. And I do think I know what that is, and we'll get to that. But for Mario, it's maybe a little bit more complicated, because we have been waiting a long time for a totally new mainline 3D Mario game. Mario Odyssey came out in 2017. They didn't have any DLC, no paid, they had free updates, but there was no paid expansion like there was for Breath of the Wild, which came out before Mario Odyssey, and then they also made Tears of the Kingdom. We just got Mario Odyssey. Now in early 2021, they did release 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which did have an additional 3D Mario campaign, but it was a short one. But still, that was something, right? And just recently, in July, we got Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a Donkey Kong game, not a Mario game, but is made by the same team, the Odyssey team. And so quite clearly, resources were used by the 3D Mario team to make a Donkey Kong game, a big Donkey Kong game, this year. Now, I don't think that means that they haven't been working on a mainline 3D Mario these last 8 years or so. I think they have. But I do think it suggests that it's going to take a little bit longer. How much longer? Hard to say with certainty. I would like to think that the next 3D Mario is going to come out next year. But there's a possibility we may have to wait even longer than that. And so if that is indeed the case, Nintendo would be in a real bind here because they'd be starting off the Switch 2 generation without a mainline Mario and without a mainline Zelda. So what can they do to put themselves into a better position? Come up with the most brilliant genius plan using both series, but in a way that perhaps one would not think. And that's going totally in on massive 40th anniversary plans. Listen, people eat this stuff up. Nintendo recognizes this. That's why they do these anniversaries. They don't just do it because they like it and they like to celebrate their history. Like, sure, that's part of it, but it's also because it makes them money. People buy these anniversary releases. People go to these concerts, buy this merchandising. It's a good business plan to celebrate your anniversaries here. And so in the case of Mario, we think we have something that might be happening really soon. Nintendo needs to start advertising for the Mario movie. It's coming out April of 2026, very soon. They'll likely start advertising that during Mario's 40th anniversary while also announcing other things. But I believe some of those things have already come out. We got Mario Kart World, we got Donkey Kong Bonanza. And what's interesting about these games, both these games have elements that were big pieces to the prior Mario movie. Yeah, Donkey Kong was an important, prominent character in the Mario movie, but also Mario Kart was a big motif of the movie as well. And we already saw this Mario movie when it came out. It actually led to boosted sales across the board for Mario Universe releases. I think it's been by design that Nintendo's positioned Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza to launch the Switch 2, because once they get into the marketing campaign for the Mario movie, they will also be tying in Mario Kart elements and Donkey Kong. These games are going to see increased sales. And it's going to work both ways. Nintendo has this whole master plan where they work on cross-promotion. The movies attract a lot of attention, they get people more interested in the games, people who play the games are more interested in the movie, so they watch the movie and vice versa. It also strengthens the word of mouth. The more people try the games, more people try the movies. It's a brilliant business plan, maximizing the value of their IP. But you know, it would be a real shame to have a new Donkey Kong game and a new Mario Kart game without some sort of substantial mainline Mario adventure game that's available sometime around the release of the movie. Nintendo needs to put out something for September. We think there's going to be an anniversary game in September. The rumor is that it may be Mario Galaxy 2. Now, we don't know if specifically Mario Galaxy 2 is planned for Mario's 40th anniversary, but Special Nick did hear that Mario Galaxy 2 is getting a remaster. So if you connect the dots, it makes sense to think that this would come out for Mario's 40th anniversary. And I do think if it's going to be its own independent release, it might actually be a pretty substantial remaster, unlike 3D All-Stars, which was a collection. So there wasn't as much need to push each game individually, but if it's just Galaxy 2, then yeah. And then of course also Galaxy 2 has Yoshi, which you know is going to play a more significant role in the next Mario movie. So there's more cross-promotion going on there. It makes a lot of sense. And so we're likely going to find out about this Mario angle to things in just a couple short weeks here, if even that. But on the other side of this is Zelda, right? And these key dates and them happening supposedly really soon. We know that Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is coming fairly soon. We don't know quite exactly when. Nintendo has told us winter, although Nintendo of Australia has told us spring, but spring in Australia ends in November of this year. But winter, as Nintendo's had it listed for most of their other markets, is between December and February, so it's kind of confusing on when this game may come out. But maybe it is coming out in January or February, early on next year, to start off the big Zelda anniversary push. we look at things for this year, and we're running out of space for games to come out this year. I think Prime 4 is coming out between Pokemon and Kirby. That's not confirmed yet. All we know is it's coming out this year. Possibly could be a December title, but I don't know if Nintendo wants to fit in a substantial release like Metroid into December, so... And they might not even want to squeeze Age of Imprisonment into December. It's hard to say. It's a possibility, but point is, it does seem like there's a strong chance that Age of Imprisonment could be a fairly significant Zelda release early on next year. Not significant enough to be like the big anniversary game, but something of substance to begin a series of things Zelda related throughout 2026 to celebrate its 40th anniversary. If the idea is that we have Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and a Galaxy 2 remaster for Mario's 40th anniversary, what will Nintendo do for Zelda? Age of Imprisonment would certainly be a nice piece, but there should be more. Maybe Nintendo could announce like a Four Swords multiplayer Zelda game, nothing super substantial, but an additional fun little Zelda release, and they would still need something else bigger, right? They need that big Zelda game. But as I said before, there's no way they're going to have a brand new 3D Zelda ready, but a remake might just be possible, and we've been theorizing for a very long time there would be Ocarina of Time remake, which is also rumored, but more importantly, it's been hinted by Eiji Aonuma multiple times in interviews, and we've already documented this, talked about this. He has actually had a significant history of hinting at future Zelda releases in different interviews, and has even confirmed it himself, so this isn't anything too crazy. This is Aonuma being the best of all Zelda leakers there are, essentially. And so, yeah, I think Ocarina of Time remake is happening. There's even little things that have popped up that seem to support the idea, like the Deku Tree from Ocarina of Time being part of the Zelda Lego set. More Hero of Time Zelda game references in Echoes of Wisdom than any other. Ocarina of Time seemingly popping up more often than in any other version of Zelda on Nintendo today, which I find curious, but it's hard to prove because Nintendo shows different things on the Today app to different people, and only the official news posts are kept on record. All these random posts that are just celebrating the history of Nintendo disappear immediately, and there's no archive of it, no public one at least, so it's hard to actually determine the exact quantity and ratios of which games being pushed and advertised more. But when you also think about how they had the Hero of Time in Soul Calibur 2, and that was one of the opening titles for GameCube Classics, there are some little things here. The main thing is that Aonuma's hinted at it twice already, so yeah, I think this is in the works. The question is, will it come out for Zelda's 40th anniversary? And, well, I mean, if we're to believe the rumor that there are multiple key dates throughout the year, and they want to celebrate Zelda's 40th anniversary, and they need a substantial Zelda release early on for Switch 2, it makes sense for it to be Zelda, and of course Nintendo would likely also start marketing the movie, probably also announce Zelda Park plans. They're now done with Donkey Kong. We've seen Eiji Aonuma, the Zelda producer, at Super Nintendo World, planning something for some sort of construction, so yeah, I think Zelda is most likely going to be the next installment to the park. And just to clarify on something here, when I'm talking about this Ocarina of Time remake, I think this would be an ambitious remake, right? Like, we're talking about these Zelda plans, and maybe it's just like a smaller 2D Four Swords adventure game, or like a Triforce Heroes kind of thing, and an Age of Imprisonment. And when you think about maybe there being a Galaxy 2 remaster and Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World, it might seem like a little bit of an imbalance. And the fact of the matter is, no matter what Nintendo does for Zelda, it's always going to be an imbalance because Mario's more fleshed out with different things. Mario Kart is the best seller out of all Nintendo IP, even mainline Mario games. But this Zelda remake, I don't think is just going to be like an upscaled Ocarina of Time 3D. No, like this would be something that visually would look like a modern Zelda game, and perhaps there would be some gameplay changes. To what extent? There's a lot of debate there. We'll have to wait and see. But just like Mario, Nintendo could be following up in 2026, having multiple Zelda releases, marketing the movie, allowing that cross-promotion, seeing these games see increased sales, and allowing both movies to thrive even more so because of this increased brand awareness overall, which will further propel just overall Switch 2 sales in its beginning years, and Nintendo will have found a way to have maintained the hype, really push Mario, really push Zelda, have something to bring in those core fan bases early on for Switch 2, and be extremely successful without actually having a mainline Mario or mainline Zelda ready in the first 2 years of Switch 2, which, if you think about it, for any other generation would be a complete and total disaster. Though I suppose I should note that for Nintendo DS, technically, they didn't have a brand new mainline Mario adventure until 2006. They went through 2 holidays without a brand new mainline Mario adventure, but they did launch with Super Mario 64 DS. Maybe this Galaxy 2 remaster could be something like that. And of course, it's also possible that there is a brand new 3D Mario made available by next holiday 2026. But either way though, as Mario Anniversary plans start to wane going into next year, and Zelda Anniversary plans pick up between these years, we could see a significant push. A genius plan in motion, perhaps with 2 classics revived. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.